61. Joey. We'd finished the bottle of wine and had moved on to the sake. The strawberry mochi was scrumptious, but now Jade had busted out the chips and salsa, and we were sitting enjoying the company of each other. Pearl sat on the overstuffed armchair, holding the small glass of sake in her hands, and smiled at Jade and me as we giggled like children. I'd never had a close female friend, and I was quickly believing Jade would become my new best friend. She was carefree, fierce, and sweet. So then Alex came over to me and said, "My friend likes you." Jade giggled. I looked over and saw the fucking biggest white guy I had ever seen in my life, and all I could think about was, could he hold me up against a wall? I spat my sake, spraying it onto my lap as I cackled, and Pearl clucked her tongue. "Jade Takata." "Sorry, Mama Mori," Jade giggled, bowing a little before bursting into a fit of giggles. "Well, not really." I wiped at the sake that dribbled down my chin and looked at Jade, who had turned her attention to me. "So, how did you and Alex really meet? Like, for real?" Oliver sort of skimmed over it, saying you've known each other for, like, ever. I giggled. "Well, it sort of feels like it. But I was best friends with his little brother Jake since I was about 8. I knew Alex back then, but not really well. He was there, but we didn't have much to do with him because he was so much older." "And then what happened?" "Well, Jake and Alex had a falling out over me. Alex left, and we never saw him again. Until 2 days before Jake's wedding, when I ran into him outside a club and we—" Jade looked at me, her sake glass hovering near her mouth. "Did you sleep with him?" The heat which raced across my face gave her the answer, and she lowered her glass. "Oh, wow. I didn't know who he was. I hadn't seen him in 10 years. Last I saw him, he had a bright blue mohawk and a lip piercing. I wasn't expecting a beautiful tattooed Japanese hunk." "Alex is definitely easy on the eyes," Pearl interjected, and both Jade and I looked at her. "What? If I was 40 years younger?" We stared at her for another moment before all 3 of us burst into laughter. "Oh my God, Mama Mori!" Somewhere outside, a car door closed, and our laughter stopped immediately. Jade blinked, putting her glass down, and put her hand down the side of the sofa we shared. It came back out with a small but wickedly sharp blade, and she turned her head, looking at the door. Footsteps and my stomach jumped into my throat as the front door handle jiggled. "For fuck's sake! Jade! We gotta get this fucking handle fixed!" My stomach dropped back to where it was supposed to be as Oliver finally popped open the door and walked in. He stopped a few feet inside, taking in the sight of us, then the fact Jade was holding the dagger. "Oh, come on, baby. I said I was going to be late. No need for violence." Jade rolled her eyes and put the dagger back down the side of the sofa. "It wasn't for you, dumbass. It was for anyone who thought to come in here to get at Joey. They wouldn't have had a chance of getting that far, not with how many guards are outside. They better not be trampling my flowers." Jade yelled out the open door, and my gaze went to it. Hoping to see just one more figure walk through it, I waited for a few minutes before looking at Oliver. "Where's Alex?" Ollie sighed and went back to the door, closing it, and came back to the sofas. "He's not coming." Everything blurred together. My stomach rebelled against the wine and the sake and the amazing strawberry mochi, and he's gone into Ikeda territory with Yuka. "Oh dear," Pearl said quietly. "Hopefully Taro is in a good mood." "Taro is never in a good mood, Mama Mori," Jade said, her hand coming out to mine. "He's going to be okay, Joey. He's with Father. Nothing will happen. Taro may be a cranky old fart, but he won't want to start a turf war. Not with the Takata clan." I lifted my gaze from where Jade held my hand to Oliver, who stood behind his wife. Why was he safe at home? Why didn't he go with them? "Why are you here, then? You're his best friend. You should be with him." Oliver's eyes closed and his head dropped. "Yuka sent me home. He swapped his driver for Soda. It's only him, Soda, and Alex." "Doing what? Going in on a suicide mission?" I asked. In the next room, Hiro started crying. "I'll get him," Pearl said, lifting off the chair, and she moved into the next room, closing the door behind her. I stared at Oliver while my emotions were clearly on display, and I didn't know whether to be angry, scared, or both. My boyfriend, the man I was in love with, was in enemy territory, chasing down whoever had left the Oni doll on my dresser while I slept, and I had to just hope that everything was going to be okay. I stood and looked at Oliver. "I want to go home." "Joey." I shook my head and walked past him, going to the front door and stepped out into the night. Auto? My driver, along with my bodyguard Reggie, came up the path and stopped in front of me. I want to go home. Miss Brewster, Alexander Sands said. Reggie started. Do you work for Alex or me? I spat, putting my hands on my hips, and stared at him. He lowered his gaze, and I looked at Auto. Well, you, Auto replied. I nodded. Too fucking right. Now I want to go home. Now. I'm going to get my handbag. Turning back to the house, I walked in and went to the sofa, collecting my handbag, which Alex had insisted I bring with me. Looking at Jade, who was wrapped up in Oliver's huge embrace, I felt a pang of guilt with how I'd spoken to him. Oliver. He shook his head. No need, Joey. It's fine. I understand. I will send some extra security to the house while you are there, and let Alex know. Thank you. Jade pulled away from her husband and came over to me, wrapping her arms around me. Please, be careful. If anything happens, just run. Don't try and fight. If it is Ikeda, they won't be gentle. I don't want to wake up with you, not with us anymore. Promise. I replied, even though her attempt at a pep talk was shit. Letting go of Jade, I turned and walked out of their cozy, beautiful home and into the dark. Climbing into the car Auto had waiting at the end of the driveway, I sank down into the leather and held back tears as we drove. 10 minutes later, we pulled up to the curb, and Reggie turned in the seat and looked back at me. Wait here, while I make sure everything is safe. I nodded and handed him the key. He left the vehicle, taking 2 more men from another car which had followed us, and he entered the house. Lights flicked on, and I could watch their movements through the house, by which lights came on, then off again. Finally, our room was at the top, and Reggie stood in the window, giving a thumbs up. Okay, we can go, Auto said, and we climbed out. 2 men followed us in, closing the door gently behind us. Reggie was coming down the stairs, and he stopped at the base of them. All clear, we're going to stay here until Alexander San comes back. If he comes back, I muttered, and I felt a heavy hand on my shoulder. I turned my head and looked at Auto. Alex will be back. It will take more than the Ikeda to stop him from coming back to you. I smiled. I hope you're right. I'm going to go and sleep in the guest room on the 2nd floor. When Alex gets home, tell him I'm there. Reggie nodded, and I left the 6 Takata soldiers standing in the hallway of the house as I went upstairs. Going into the room I had when I first stayed with Alex, I closed the door quietly, crossed to the bed, and climbed in, robe and all, curled into a ball and cried myself to sleep. 62 Alex. My phone buzzed in my pocket as we pulled up in front of the restaurant, and I reached in, turning it off without looking at the screen. Whoever was trying to message me would have to wait. I had to have my wits about me right now. This whole situation was literally a dance of life and death. Alexander, before we walk in there, I want you to listen to me. Taro Ikeda is an honorable man. If there are threats coming from his soldiers, he probably doesn't even know about it. My jaw clenched and I nodded. I knew I would have to let Yuka do most of the talking because my anger was so fucking white hot right now, I would probably accuse him and start a damned war. Let's get home in one piece, shall we? I want to see my grandson tomorrow. Climbing slowly from the car, we stood next to it for a few moments before the doors opened and 2 men stepped out. Leave your weapons in the car. Tower knows I do not carry a weapon, Yuka said, and Alexander is more deadly without one. I looked at Yuka, who had a smirk on his lips, and I rolled my eyes and looked back to the pair, who looked confused as to whether my boss was joking or not. And then I saw who it was. These 2 were part of the group which were chasing Joey. Oh, this was going to be fun. We were about to walk into this restaurant, just Yuka and I, while Soda waited outside, and we would confront Taro Ikeda and literally accuse him of threatening not only my life, but that of my girlfriend. And then, hopefully, we would be able to walk out again, in front of men who knew who Joey was. One of them turned their head and spoke quietly to someone inside before he turned back to Yuz. Come on then, Taro hasn't got all night. Stepping forward, my stomach dropped to my feet, and I had to stifle a chuckle as I heard the central locking on the sedan behind us, remembering Soda's comment about the seediness of Ikeda territory. He was fucking Takata Yakuza and was locking the doors. We stepped past the pair of Ikeda and into the restaurant, which was a little larger than it looked from outside. Waiting for the pair of men behind us, I had to stop myself from turning and watching them. It would be against protocol. My job was to keep my gaze on Yuka, standing just back from him, but within arm's reach if something happened, this way. One of the pair who let us in stepped past and we followed him further into the room and to a large table in the center. The table was easily 6 feet wide and laden with food. God, I hope Taro didn't expect us to eat. Holy shit. Taro Ikeda was fucking massive. I thought Soda was big, but Taro was massive. Rotund. Ah, Yuka. It has been too long. Please sit. Enjoy the dumplings. Yuka moved to the chair opposite Taro. Sat and I stood behind him, protecting his back. You know I keep a strict diet and don't eat after 6 at night, Taro. But thank you. Taro Ikeda's gaze finally moved to me. And you, Alexander Kazumi? Would you like some dumplings? Fuck no, I didn't want some fucking dumplings. I bowed. No thank you, Taro-san. Taro picked up a dumpling with fat fingers and stuffed it into his mouth, chewing loudly, and I turned my head away with the sight. For fuck's sake, I didn't come here to watch him eat. What can I do for the pair of you this late at night? My general tells me of threats made against you, Kazumi. My gaze slipped back to Taro, but I didn't answer him. Yes, this evening the Jade Dragon was, Yuka started, but Taro held up his hand. Yuka, I respect you. You are one of the few left who are with the old ways, but I did not ask you. My gaze moved to my boss, and I saw him straighten his back, and I looked at Taro. So, Kazumi, there was a threat? I bowed my head slightly. Yes, Taro-san. The Jade Dragon was broken into. A green Oni was left in a place which could only mean it was for me, and then another, black Oni, was left at my place of residence. A black Oni. Taro picked up another dumpling, and again, I turned my gaze away as he ate. Someone doesn't like you. The black Oni wasn't for me, I said, looking back at the fat bastard. It was sitting on my girlfriend's dresser. Some filthy fucker broke into my house and put it there, while my girlfriend slept. Taro raised an eyebrow and Yuka turned his head, whispering to me, Alexander, calm. I inhaled and looked at a couple of Ikeda soldiers lurking in the shadows at the back of the room. They almost skulked around, moving constantly as if to try and figure out the best way of getting to us, and my stomach dropped to my feet. And you think this filthy fucker is Ikeda? There was a bit of a grumble from the back of the room, and my gaze moved to the men standing in the shadows. I could take them on. Taro, this is not the first time Alexander has been targeted. Only 3 months ago, we had a break into our offices. Alex managed to chase one of them into a local alley. But before he could determine who they were or what they were after, they stabbed him the calf. Yuka's hand slowly reached into his coat pocket, and he pulled out a yellow envelope and slid it across the table through the piles of dumplings. With this, Tower didn't pick it up, instead clicking on one of the soldiers behind him. One of them came over, picked up the envelope, and tipped the contents out onto the table. The pocket knife that had stabbed into my leg, still in its Ziploc bag, thudded heavily onto the surface. Now you tell us our concerns are not justified. I blinked. Holy shit. Yuka had bought that in with us. After being told to leave all weapons in the car, Taro reached out and picked up the edge of the bag and lifted the knife so he could see it. I see. Taro moved the bag so that the men behind him could see it. Does anyone know who this belongs to? A murmur went up around the room, but no one said anything about it. I might. May I look closer? The man who had tipped it out, one of the ones who had been chasing Joey, looked at both Taro, then Yuka and I. Yuka nodded and he took it from Taro's hands and held it up to the light. Fuck, the next 5 minutes took forever. He ummed and ahed, and I wanted to throw a fucking dumpling at him. Taro-san, do you remember the batch of knives we had made and you inspected them? They had a default on the handle design? Taro looked at him. Yes? The man leaned in, showing Taro something on the handle. There. This is one of the ones you said was not up to Ikeda standard and you told me to dispose of. Doesn't look like it was disposed of very well, Riku. But, sir, I did. I took them back to the weaponsmith and watched as he took them apart and melted down the components. Rika turned to us. Every single one of those knives was dismantled and scrapped. This is not an Ikeda blade. This is a reject. He put the blade down on the surface of the table and looked at us. I will put my life on it. Taro, Yuka, and I stared at him for a few moments before I spoke. Riku, Is it? He blinked and looked at Taro, who nodded before looking back to me. Yes, Alexander-san. You were with a group of Akeda 3 months ago in the East Village chasing a blonde woman. I watched as the man physically deflated and nodded. Yes. Well, that woman, my girlfriend, is the one who had the black oni put on her dresser, so forgive me if I think that maybe you might be full of Alexander. Yuka pulled me up short and I bit my tongue. Excuse Alex, he's a little emotional about the threat to his partner. Riku, if you are telling us the truth, then I would like the name of this weaponsmith. Again, Riku looked at his boss, and Taro nodded. Riku bowed slightly and looked at us. I will go and get the information right now. Please, be patient and wait. The man all but ran from the room, and Taro looked back to us. Well, it looks like you're not the only victim, Alexander. Taro picked up another dumpling and pointed it at me. Looks like someone is framing us to take the suspicion away from them. And who do you suppose that might be? I retorted. Yuka. Maybe my driver? Taro snorted and shoved the dumpling into his mouth, the juice from it flowing down his chin. I'd look a little closer to home. 63. Joey. I've never been one for nightmares. Maybe 1 or 2 when I was little, and one when my mom was sick and in palliative care. But the nightmare that had ripped me from my sleep had been one of the most terrifying things I had ever experienced in my life. I had practically launched myself out of bed and screamed like I had never screamed in my entire life. 4 Japanese yakuza with fucking guns came busting into the room, lights came on, and I almost fainted in fear. Reiji had checked every single corner of the room, the bathroom and windows, while Aoto stood over me, waiting for me to calm down enough to tell him what happened. The other 2 stood at the door, one with his gun to the ground, one with it pointed out into the hallway. I had my own set of hired goons. After making sure I was okay, Aoto and Reiji reluctantly went back downstairs, and I had gone and hopped in the shower, dressing gown and all. Sitting under the blasting hot water, I huddled on the floor of the shower, shock setting in, and stared at the wall, trying to make sense of what I dreamed of. It was night, and I was asleep in my dream when through the window a black oni came creeping. It stood over me for what seemed like hours, and as my sleeping self finally realized there was something there, it lashed out and slashed my throat. I shivered, my skin turning to goose flesh, and I frowned, as tears threatened. So much had happened in the last 6 months, I felt like I was losing my mind. I was overwhelmed, and sitting in the bottom of the shower, I wondered if I had made a mistake by moving things so quickly with Alex. Joey? Alex's voice floated to me, and I lifted my head as he opened the door of the bathroom. He looked at the shower cubicle, confusion coming to his gaze, before it dropped, and he saw me sitting on the floor, still in my robe, with water cascading over me. Joey? He rushed forward, stepping into the shower, shoes and all, and crouched down, hissing at the heat of the water. Fucking hell. Alex reached up and flipped off the taps before he gripped my arms and helped me to my feet. His hair was plastered to his face from the water splashes, his clothing soaked. What are you doing in here like this? Alex started to strip me of the robe, and as soon as the cold air hit my skin, I started to shiver violently and tears started to flow. Within moments, I was a blubbering mess, while Alex toweled me off. Oh, doll? Wrapping a guest robe around me, he quickly dried my hair and led me out of the bathroom and into the bedroom, to the bed. Pulling back the covers, he pushed me down onto the bed and made me lie down. You wait there. I'll be back in a second. Alex disappeared into the bathroom, and I curled up in a ball, crying. What the fuck? I had always been pretty resilient. I'd been strong when my mom died. I'd been fairly strong when Jake married Phoebe. Now when I had a simple nightmare, I was a mess. But was it a simple nightmare? I had never dreamed of someone or something killing me. Alex came back out of the bathroom without clothes on and climbed into bed with me. He rolled over and wrapped his strong arms around me, cradling my head against his chest, and soothed me. And I broke again. A fresh bout of tears came forth, and I clung to him as if my life depended on it, and he was the only one who could save me. Shh, it's okay, baby. I'm here. We lay like that for what seemed like an eternity until I finally started to calm down. Aoto rang me, told me you had a nightmare. Snitch, I mumbled, and Alex chuckled. He worries for you. He's become very fond and protective of you. So has Reiji. He was beside himself and pacing the whole damned house when I got back. I lifted my head and looked up at Alex. The sun had just started to break, throwing tinges of pink into the room. "Did you find out what you needed to?" Alex grimaced, shaking his head as he looked down at me. "No, it wasn't the Ikeda." Blinking, I pulled away from him a little. "Wasn't what? Those goons who chased me?" "Had nothing to do with it. Our warning about coming into Takata territory worked. Taro found out and they've been stuck on shit-kicking duties. No Ikeda has been in the area for months." I lowered my head and looked at the tattoos that lined Alex's collarbone. Flowers and waves, a tengu and a black oni. I pulled away from Alex a little. "Since when have you had that?" Alex frowned, looking at me. "Had what?" "That." I lifted my hand, touching the tattoo. "It's a black oni." "What?" Alex pulled away and climbed from the bed, going to the bathroom, and from the interior of it, I heard him swear. "Fuck!" He came out a minute later, wrapped in a towel, and he looked down at me. "I have to go out again. Are you going to be okay here with Auto and Reiji for a little bit?" I blinked but nodded. Alex leaned down, kissing me. "I love you. I'll be back a little later. Sleep if you can." He left the room and went upstairs, and no more than 5 minutes later I heard him almost running back down again. "Sota, we got to go!" I rolled over onto my back and stared at the ceiling. What the hell had just happened? Alex had run out so quickly without explaining why. Fuck this. I climbed from the bed and left the room. Aoto was sitting at the top of the stairs, a guard between anyone who might come to do me harm and me. "Aoto, I want to go to work." He stood, turned, and looked at me. "Are you sure, Alex?" "Aoto, I need to get out of this damned house and do something. Otherwise, I'm going to go insane." I raised an eyebrow at him. "So I'm going to go and get dressed, and then you are taking me to work. I don't care if you bring Reiji and all the king's men with us. We are going." Aoto sighed but bowed slightly. "Yes, Miss Brewster." Turning, I went up to the bedroom I had abandoned in fear and got dressed, not looking over to the dresser. Yeah, because I knew the Oni would be looking back at me. Alex said he didn't want to move it until they could get someone in to look at it and make sure it didn't have some kind of toxin or something on it. Feeling a little more human, I smeared on some lipstick, turned from the bathroom, walked out and stopped. The black Oni was gone. 64, Alex. I took a couple of selfies, with the front of my shirt open, the Oni tattoo exposed. Holding my phone in my hand, I looked down at the black Oni doll from Joey's dresser and frowned, taking photos of it too. It was as if someone had taken the doll off my skin and made it real. How the fuck had I not recognized it? The bloody thing was unique. I had had it custom drawn by the clan's tattoo artist. He had only made one copy of it, the one on my skin. So, how the fuck had someone found out what it looked like, and then made a damn doll out of it? I sent the photos to Oliver, knowing what his reaction would be the moment he saw them, then turned off my phone. I wouldn't have it on where I was going. Pearl isn't going to be impressed with you turning up at her house this time of morning, Soda said, and I grimaced. It was a Saturday morning. The one day of the week, Pearl didn't have to deal with work or her husband or anything. It was her zen time, and I knew she was probably going to skin me alive, but she was the clan's only link to traditional Japanese mythology, and she had an extensive range of Japanese dolls. "Did you bring the other doll?" Sota nodded. "It's in the back." I turned in my seat and reached back, picking up the other Oni doll. Sitting them both on my lap, I looked down at the hideous little demons. They were fairly well made, no bigger than a soda can, and made my skin crawl. Soda pulled the sedan up alongside the huge gated house, and I looked at him. "Might be best for you to wait here. At least you'll be able to relay to Yuka that I died in battle against a witch." The deadpan look I received had me chuckling. "Just wait in the car, Soda." "Yes, sir." I climbed from the car and walked to the gate, reaching out to press the buzzer. "Alexander, I'm gonna slap you." Pearl's voice came through the intercom. I held up the dolls to the camera, and the gate popped open. Taking a look back to Soda, I pushed open the gate and stepped through to another world. Mama Mori's house looked as if she had picked it up out of the Japanese countryside and plonked it into the middle of East Village. The bubbling stream that ran through the beautiful, tranquil gardens instantly made you feel at peace. And my soul would have been, if it hadn't been for the woman standing on the villa's steps, tapping her foot. "You took your damn time," she said as I stepped up to her and bowed. "Pearl, my sweet." "It's 7 in the morning, Alexander. You're lucky you're cute." I grinned at her, and she rolled her eyes. "Give them here." Handing over the pair of dolls housed in their bags, Pearl grimaced at them. "Well, they're ugly." She turned and walked back inside, and I lifted my foot to follow, and she stopped, turning her head. Her gaze moved to my feet. "You better not be thinking of setting a shoed foot on any part of this house." My face burned with embarrassment, and I bowed. "Sorry." I removed my shoes and followed her into the house, closing the rice paper doors behind me. We moved through the house, past the kitchen, and into another, bigger room. I stopped at the entrance and stared at the array of dolls on the shelves. "Oh, wow. I have 603. She said, going to the table in the middle of the room, and she flipped on a light. "I have been collecting them since I was a child. The oldest one used to belong to my grandmother when she was a child. It's an amazing collection, Pearl." Come on, sit down. Don't just stand there." I walked across the room and sat on the other side of Pearl as she pulled out a pair of cotton gloves and put them on. "Have these been checked for prints?" "Yes, there wasn't any." Pearl nodded and opened the bag of the green oni and gently removed it. She placed it on the piece of silk on the table and turned her attention to the black one. "I think I might leave him in his bag for now." Her attention went back to the green doll, and she picked it up and started to examine it. "Well, it's not made by one of the big artists," she turned the doll. "It's not Menya Shoho or Usaburo Kokeshi, nor is it Hirato Goya." Meaning someone else made it," she said, lifting her gaze, a smirk coming to her lips. "It doesn't have a maker's mark, which is going to make it near impossible for you to figure out who made it." "Great," I said, my shoulders slumping. "The black oni, though?" Pearl put the green one to the side and picked up the black one, gently taking him out. She placed him on the table and looked at it. "I've never seen an oni like this one. It's unique." Pearl nodded and looked up at me as I pulled back the collar of my shirt and exposed my tattoo. "Oh." She looked back down at the doll, then to the tattoo again. "It's exactly the same." "Yep." I closed my shirt again. "Someone has seen my tattoo and made a doll out of it, but the only ones who saw it were Yuka, the tattoo artist, and Joey. I don't go to the bathhouse and don't walk around with it exposed." "Who tattooed it?" "Tadashi. I watched him burn the stencil and original drawing when done." "Well then, Alex, you have a problem. There's no other explanation. Someone has gotten photos of it when you've had your shirt off." My stomach dropped to my feet. That meant someone was taking photos of me in my house, or the thought of someone taking photos of Joey and I making love had my stomach churning, and I stood up and walked out of Pearl's house and into the gardens. She followed, standing on the step as I paced. "Alexander." I turned and looked at her. She frowned. "Sweetheart, I think someone is stalking you." 65, Joey. I'd been so busy with Yasu, doing health checks on babies and stitching up minor cuts from cross-clan scuffles, I hadn't noticed my phone had almost clogged up with voicemails, until I went to check it, on a break. "You have 23 new voice messages." "What the fuck?" I muttered, pressing a button and placed the phone on the table as the first one played, and I picked up my sandwich. "Joey?" I blinked at the voice which floated down the line. "Joey, answer your phone." The line clicked and I reached out, pressing the next button. "Joey, please, answer your phone. I need to talk to you." Next. "Joey, please." Next. "Joey, I'm sorry. Please." Next. I was starting to feel sick with the desperation in Jake's voice. Message after message, the same pleading. It got toward the end of the messages and I was starting to feel sorry for him. "Jolene." My blood ran cold with the change in his voice. "Jolene, answer the fucking phone, now." My stomach soured and I put down my sandwich, reaching out to stop the messages, but my finger accidentally pressed next, and the last one played. "You think fucking my brother is going to save you from what's coming? It's going to make it worse. You've put yourself in a place you don't belong. It's going to bite you in the ass, and you're going to wish you never left my side." I'd never hit stop so hard in my life, and I pushed my phone away and turned, leaping out of my seat, and ran to the bathroom, bringing up the small bit of lunch I had managed to eat. Oh my God, what the fuck was wrong with him? Jake was sick. He had to be, and for a split second I thought he might have a brain tumor. Joey? There was a gentle knock on the door of the bathroom, and I stood. I'll be out in a second. Washing my mouth out, I quickly cooled my face with cold hands and fixed my hair. Turning, I opened the door and stepped out. Alex was standing at the table, looking down at the phone, which had practically been slung across the table, and the sandwich I had dropped, its contents spilling out onto the table. He turned to me, concern in his eyes. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, walking back to my phone, and I replayed the messages to Alex, who stood there, staring at the phone in my hand, anger darkening his features. "What the fuck? That's it! I'm fucking done with his shit!" Alex growled. "Wait, it gets worse," I said, as I pressed the button and played the last message. Alex's face went from one of anger to paling, and he gripped the back of the chair as his brother finished his threat. I put the phone on the table, and Alex reached out and picked it up. He pressed a couple of buttons, and his own pinged. Another couple of taps, and he closed my phone and handed it back to me. "I sent them to me. I will send them to the clan's lawyer. He will archive them, for if something happens to you, we will have proof." I blinked. "Happens to me? What do you think is going to happen to me?" My legs were starting to feel like jelly, and I stared at Alex. "Alexander." His lips pursed together. "The little black Oni on your bedside table, it's an omen. I wasn't going to like this. No matter what he said next, I knew I wasn't going to like this one little bit." He reached up, pulling aside the collar of his shirt, and I sat the one I saw earlier. The black Oni is exactly like this one, which I had put on me when I first started at the Takata clan. No one else has ever seen it except Yuka and Soda. And Soda. I blinked. "When you fight. Soda covers it. It's not something which I want people to see." He let go of the shirt and stepped closer to me. "Someone has been watching me, Joey. The black Oni had a twin of sorts, a green one, left for me at the Jade, telling me I'm being watched." This started to make my head hurt. "What does a black one mean?" Alex closed his eyes. "Impending death." Nope. I didn't like it. "What? Whose death?" Obviously, it was mine. I was just having a hard time making sense of it. I hadn't done anything to anyone. I was nice, I was a good nurse, and liked helping people. Was this what my life was going to be? Constantly having to look over my shoulder? Was the salary Yuka offered worth it? Was being with Alex worth it? My stomach churned again, and I turned, ran to the bathroom, and threw up again. Alex was by my side in an instant, holding back my hair, soothing my back. "I'm sorry, doll." I spat into the toilet. "Sorry isn't going to cut it, Alex." Slumping back onto the tiled floor, I looked up at him. "Someone is threatening my life, and all you are saying is sorry?" There was venom in my voice, and I expected Alex to match my tone with his own acid, but he didn't. "I'm trying my best to find out who is threatening us, Joey. I really am. I haven't slept properly in weeks, because I am too scared to since the Ikeda chased you, because I've been having nightmares about someone coming and hurting you." And then the Oni were left. A single tear streaked down Alex's cheek, and I blinked. He was crying. I reached out, grabbing his hand. "I'm sorry, Alex. I'm just terrified. You're used to threats and violence. I'm not. Not like this. I'm not. Not against someone I love more than anything." Alex lifted himself to his feet, pulling me up off the floor. "It'd kill me if you got hurt." I wrapped my arms around his waist, pressing my head against his chest. "And I wouldn't be able to go on without you." Alex kissed the top of my head, wrapping his arms around me. "I think we need to beef up our security a bit more. Get you a new number. And we need to move." I lifted my head and looked at him. "Move?" Alex nodded. "I don't know about you, but I don't feel comfortable at the house anymore." "Yeah, neither do I." "Well, then that's what we're going to do this afternoon." "Huh." Alex smiled, bringing me back into his embrace. "We're going house hunting." That sounded great, but I knew it was his way of taking my mind of what the real truth was. We were in danger. And if the messages were anything to go by, it was his own brother who posed the biggest danger of all. 66. Alex, we were holed up at Oliver's place for a few days while we looked for a new place, and while I loved my best friend more than anything, I didn't know if our friendship was going to fare well after this, especially if Jade and Joey kept shit-talking us. And then Hero spewed all over Alex's $300 jacket, and he just chucked it in the bin, instead of letting me wash it. Jade threw back her pretty head and cackled, and Joey joined her. He really doesn't like kids. I rolled my eyes. I didn't say I didn't like kids, Jade. I just don't like being spewed on. The pair of them cackled again, and I looked at Oliver for support. He raised his hands and shrugged. Sorry, man. Can't help you out of this one. Fuck, I muttered. Speaking of Hero, Jade said, climbing to her feet. He's due to wake up. I'm gonna go and get him. She wandered off, leaving Oliver and me with Joey, and my friend looked at us. So is Yuka still planning this trip to Nevada? Yes, he is. I told him it's not a good idea, especially since Joey has to go too to learn from Yasuo, and I have to be there to protect him. We're going to be in a city we don't know. There are going to be so fucking many variables I can't control. Damn it, Oliver said, frowning. I can't even get Jade to talk him out of it either. And you shouldn't, Joey said, and we both turned to her. She has enough on her plate with Hero and the club and the business dealings of the clan. You can't expect her to try and talk her father out of something that is going to strengthen the trade and peace with other clans. Spoken like a true clanswoman, Oliver said, and I glared at my friend. This was exactly what I didn't want, for Joey to start to dig down into the mud and politics of the clan. It was bad enough that I had to dirty my hands with it. I didn't want her to as well. All I wanted was for her to be Yuka's doctor, and that was it. Joey looked at me, and I stared right back. I did love her fight and determination, but at the same time, right now, I wished she was the quiet, shy, meek woman. We are going, threats or not, we still have a job to do. You are Yuka's head of security. I am his physician in training. If you're worried, hire more security. It's not that easy, doll, I said. We have a week until the trip. I can't get enough security vetted in time for that. I'm sure you're more than capable. She smiled sweetly at me, and I raised an eyebrow at her. I know you are more than... There's my boy! Oliver cut Joey short, and I was kind of grateful. It was going to get very uncomfortable for the big man if he hadn't. Jade held Hero in her arms, and she walked toward us, and Hero reached for Joey. Oh, you little traitor! Oliver chuckled as Joey cooed at him and took him from his mother. The tubby little bugger giggled and cooed back at Joey, and a strange feeling came over me. I wanted that. I wanted Joey to be the mother of my children. What the fuck? My gaze moved away from my girlfriend and the giggly baby and caught Oliver's. He had a smirk to his lips, and I rolled my eyes. Here we go again? So, Joey. Ah, fuck. You ever want kids? God damn it. I was gonna skin him and make Jade a new coat. Joey bounced Hero on her knee, cooing to him, and smiled. Yeah, I'm an only child. I always wanted siblings, but Mom got too sick to have more kids. If I ever have them, I want at least 3. 3? The thought of Joey carrying 3 of my kids, my stomach flipped and my groin tightened with the idea. Fucks. I was in trouble, because right now, even with everything happening around us, the threats and the drama, I would happily get her pregnant. Again, my groin tightened, and I shifted in my seat. You all good over there, Alex? Oliver asked, then amusement in his voice evident, and I flipped him off, much to his delight. My crankbutt over there doesn't want kids. Joey's gaze lifted to mine. Shit. Really? Was that a hint of disappointment? The thought she was disappointed with me not wanting kids hit me harder than I thought. Did she have it in her mind that maybe she would want kids with me one day? Why not? Suddenly all the attention was on me, and I really wanted to reach out and slap the fuck out of Oliver. Because I didn't have a good relationship with my parents, and I am worried history would repeat itself. Joey frowned and looked down at Hero. Well, that's just silly. Isn't it, Bubba? I think Uncle Alex would make the most amazing daddy. What do you think? And I shit you not, that chunk little gremlin turned around and looked at me, and smiled. Yeah, you think so too? Well, hopefully one day he'll change his mind. Joey kept talking to Hero, and I frowned. Standing, I looked down at everyone. I need some air. I'll be outside. Leaving the living room, I stepped out into the cooling night air and took a deep breath. Holy shit. Hey man, I didn't mean to push. Oliver came up next to me. I'm sorry. I could never stay angry with Oliver for long or at all. Not with all the shit we had been through in the last 10 years. It's fine. Turning, I leaned against the large concrete dragon in the garden and looked back into the house. Joey and Jade were on the floor with Hero playing with the tot, and I smiled. "She's got you good, hasn't she?" "Yeah, she has," I smiled. "And you know what? She said she hopes one day I change my mind about having kids. Well, I can tell you now, I have. I think I did the first time I saw her with Hero." "Really?" I nodded, looking at my friend, then at the woman I loved. "Yeah, I could have kids with Joey." 67, Joey. "Are you sure you have everything?" I lifted my gaze to Alex as he stood at the end of the bed staring at my suitcase. "I think so." "Sure you don't want to throw in the kitchen sink, too?" Looking back to the case, I frowned, then looked at him and flipped him off. "Get fucked." "Would love to, doll, but we have to be at the airport in half an hour. I just don't have the time." Alex stepped up to me, his hand sliding over my ass as he whispered in my ear, "But if you want, I can quickly have a snack. You just have to take these off." I shoved at him, and he chuckled, kissing the side of my face as he picked up my overstuffed case, feigning not being able to lift it properly. "Holy shit, I'm serious. Got everything? Asshole, there's some of your stuff in there too," I replied, picking up the small beauty case off the bed. "I have stuff in my duffel bag," Alex said, taking the case toward the door. "What? One change of clothes and some toiletries?" I asked, following him down the stairs. "What if we want to go out for dinner? What if you get wine on your shirt? What if you rip my clothes off and I can't button my shirt anymore?" "Oh, for fuck's sake, Alex, get your mind out of the gutter, will you?" "Not with you around, doll," he said, dumping the case on the floor where it was quickly picked up by Auto and taken outside. "See, Auto could pick it up easily," I said, handing the beauty case to Reiji, who took it outside to the car. "Auto could bench press a damned car if you asked him to," Alex said, shaking his head. He turned to me and stepped closer, caressing the side of my face. "Are you sure we don't have time to? Get out," I said, shoving him out the door, and Alex laughed as he stumbled out the door and down the path of our new house. It'd taken only a week for Alex to find something, and once I'd seen the beautiful home, with the lush gardens and the 10-foot-high wall, I was sold. We had 24-hour guards, and Alex even spoke about letting me get a dog for protection, as long as I agreed to have it trained properly. Heading through the gardens, I stopped by the small pond. It was full of koi, their bright colors breaking the surface of the water, thinking it was feeding time. I turned to the 2 guards who were standing off to the side. "Don't forget to feed them. Twice a day. Their food in the small cupboard just inside the utility shed." "They know, doll," Alex said, taking my hand. "Come on." "But, Joey, we're going to be late." "Well, you shouldn't have spent so much time complaining about my case," I quipped back, following him out of the gate and into the waiting vehicle. "If we're late, it's your fault." Alex leaned closer, whispering his hot breath against my ear. "You know I love it when you're a brat, but be careful. I will miss this trip and incur Yuka's wrath to take you back inside and make you pay." My panties flooded instantly, and I pursed my lips, looking at him. "You wouldn't," he raised an eyebrow. "Want to test that theory?" Shaking my head, my face heated as he chuckled, and he leaned forward, tapping on Soda's shoulder. "Let's go, big guy." "Yes, sir." We drove out of the city and to a private airfield, where a jet was waiting for us. Climbing out, Alex took my hand and led me toward the plane. Auto was already there, loading out luggage, and he smiled as I walked past. "See you in a few days, Miss Brewster." I stopped, my hand coming free of Alex's. "What? Aren't you coming with us?" Auto stopped packing the luggage and turned to me, shaking his head. "No, I am not. Reiji is going instead." I turned my head and looked at Alex, who had realized I wasn't with him and had come back. "What's going on?" "Auto isn't coming with me?" "There was only room for one of your security team on the plane. Yuka has plenty of security, and me. You'll be fine." "No, I wouldn't be. As much as Reiji was good, I didn't have the rapport with him that I did with Auto. The big guy was like a big brother to me." "Okay, cool, you go. I'll stay here with Auto. We'll order pizza and watch some movies." I turned to Auto and smiled at him, and he smirked, knowing I was playing Alex. He'd commented before that I could twist the head of Yuka's security like no one else. Dirty Dancing or Grease? No. Alex said behind me. "I haven't seen Grease yet." Auto said, shrugging. "Is there singing?" "Yes, there is. You're going to love it." I giggled. I heard Alex groan behind me. Fine. Auto, go and get your travel bag out of the car. I'll go tell Reiji he's not going. Yes, sir, Auto said, winking at me, and I smiled, turning back to Alex. He was standing with his arms crossed over his chest, an eyebrow raised. You are definitely being bratty. I grinned at him, walking up to him. Then you'll have to do something about it. Alex's hand lifted, and he wrapped it gently around the front of my throat, holding my head still, while he leaned in, nipping at my lips with his teeth. Oh, believe me, you're going to pay. I just have to decide in which way. If you two are done, we'd like to leave. Yuka called from the door of the plane, and I stepped back from Alex, as Aoto threw his bag into the cargo hold of the plane and took out Reiji's bag, dropping it out of the way of the plane. I winked at Alex as I stepped past him and walked up the steps, slipping past Yuka. Sorry, sir. Walking into the jet, I saw Reiji reclining on one of the sofas, tapping away on his phone. Reiji, you're not coming with us. My security looked up at me, as if I'd spat on him. What? Suddenly my stomach felt uneasy at his tone. You're not going. Reiji stood and walked toward me, phone in one hand, the other balled into a fist. No, I am going. I took a step back, suddenly frightened of my own security. No, you're not. Auto is going. He stopped no more than a foot from me, and I was suddenly very aware of how he was built, how intense he seemed in the small plane. You don't have the authority to change anything. You're not clan. What the fuck? For the last couple of months, Reiji had been nothing but nice and protective of me, and suddenly he was acting like he wanted to hurt me. What did you just say to her? The presence behind me was not that of Alex, but Auto. I could pick his scent from anywhere. Peppermint, lavender, and rosewood oil for the inflammation in his left hand from a past clan fight. I stepped back, my back connecting with Auto's broad chest, and I suddenly felt a lot safer. Reiji looked from me to the huge Japanese man behind me. She has no authority to change who is going on this trip. I am going. No, you're not. That was Alex. He stepped past both Auto and I, putting himself between Reiji and us, and Reiji had to take a step back. You are going to collect your bag off the tarmac, and you are going to go home. You are also relieved of any security duties pertaining to Miss Brewster. Reiji's face reddened with anger, and I honestly thought he would lash out at Alex. But in the end, he bowed and stepped past us and headed out of the plane. Alex turned and looked at me. Are you okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice, and Alex looked up at Auto. Make sure she gets settled in. I'll be back. Alex stepped past us, and I turned, looking up at Auto. Thank you. He smiled, bowed slightly. No problem. It's my job, to protect you, no matter what. I nodded and turned, going to the sofa which Reiji had reclined on and sat down, looking out the window. Alex and Yuka were outside, with Yuka obviously giving Reiji a very public dressing down. The man looked defeated, and for a moment I felt bad. But as Alex and Yuka turned and came back toward the plane, Reiji looked up, and our eyes met, and he lifted his hand, making it into a gun, and pointed it at me. Maybe Jake wasn't the danger. Maybe the danger came from within the clan. Well, 68. Alex, my anger was still bubbling, my jaw aching with tension as we touched down in Nevada. How fucking dare Reiji say what he had to Joey? She was more clan than him. He'd been accepted after he defected from a clan in the south. He was lucky Yuka had only demoted him. I would have kicked his ass out and made him crawl out of Takata territory. Thank fuck Aoto had been there, and now I knew why Joey had such faith in the big man. He was like a bear around her. Protective and scary as fuck. I'd only just managed to get past him before he had flattened Reiji. He would have made a mess of him, too. I'd been smacked in the head by Aoto once, and vowed never to be in that position again. Joey was sitting quietly beside Yuka in the back of the car, while Sota drove us from the airport to the hotel. Aoto was in the car with Yasu and his security, and a third car with more security traveled behind us. It was already a shitty start to an already tense trip, and I really hoped nothing else went wrong. Are you okay, Jolene? I turned my head as Joey lifted her gaze to Yuka. Yes, sir. Just a tiny bit rattled, that is all. I thought Reiji was a nice guy. We all did, Yuka replied. But he isn't Takata clan. Joey's eyebrows furrowed, and I wanted to kiss the little frown which formed between them. What? I thought he was. No, Reiji is from a clan in Florida. He defected to New York after his boss went a little nuts. Do you do that often? What? Pick up strays? Yuka asked, chuckling. Yes, we do. That's how we got Alex and Oliver. Thank you, sir, I mumbled, and Joey giggled. Don't forget Soda is a stray, too. The punch to my arm hurt more than I thought it would, and I chuckled as Soda cursed at me in Japanese, as Yuka continued. I am known as a benevolent leader who takes in the down and out, but it doesn't mean I just let anyone in. I do background checks on them and make sure they are not dangerous. I think Reiji just might have lost his way. He wasn't overly impressed when Jade married Oliver either. Oh, really? Yes, something about thinning the Takata bloodline with white filth. Oh, Joey's gaze lifted to mine. And what does he think of Alex? With him being half Japanese? Oh, you have no idea what he thinks of me, I chuckled. Reiji, while fairly loyal to the Takata line, had always been sore on the fact that I, a half-caste Japanese reject, could climb the ranks of the Takata clan so quickly and become one of Yuka's most trusted. It was why he was always a willing sparring partner, any excuse to try and better me. But because I was his boss, he had no choice. But he's always been so nice to me, she replied, and I could hear the sadness in her voice, and it broke my heart. My Jolene, always wanting someone to like her. That's why I chose him. Well, I think you'll be a lot safer with just Aoto, Yuka replied. He will protect you, like Sota protects Alex, with his life. I turned my head and looked at Sota and grinned. Hear that, Sota. You're supposed to protect me with your life, not try and take mine with your shitty driving. Ducking the slap that was aimed at me, I laughed as Sota swore at me again. I've already saved you more times than I can count, little shit. And not to mention, I have given my life for you once before. The grin faded from my face as Joey piped in. What? Fuck. I really didn't want her to know about this. This was part of clan life I didn't like, the danger. Remember Alex, 3 years ago? Closing my eyes, I sighed, tipping my head back. Yeah, I remember. What happened? Let's just say I took a bullet, meant for Mr. Perfect here, and my heart stopped beating. The silence in the car was palpable, and I turned, looking back to Joey. She looked mortified, and she looked to Yuka, who nodded. Alex and Sota were responding to some intel on clan incursions into the Takata territories. They took a couple of extra men and went to investigate. But it was a trap, Sota added. They did it to lure Alex out into the open, and they took a shot at him. But as they shot at me, this big idiot stepped forward, and the bullet went through the side of his shoulder and lodged just above his heart. I looked at Sota. He saved my life. Yeah, but I also technically lost mine. One of your 9, I chuckled. I'm not a fucking cat, Alex, Sota retorted. Definitely not, you're too fat. Another swipe at my head, and this time the car swerved a little. Sota, I'd like to get there in one piece, Yuka chuckled. Slap him when we stop. Yes, sir, Sota said, looking at me. See, I have permission. I flipped him off and looked back to Joey. Are you okay? She shook her head. No. How did he come back? I did CPR. Managed to get his heart restarted while one of the clan drove us to Yasu and he took the bullet out. Soda's arm raised and showed her the bullet which hung off a chain around his neck. My souvenir. Its name is Alex. Ass, I chuckled. I turned back to Joey, who still looked a little green around the gills. It's okay, Joey. We've definitely beefed up the security and intel. We don't go chasing ghosts without proper information. It's not that, she said. Her gaze lifted, and she looked at Sota before looking at me again. That bullet. If Sota hadn't stepped forward and taken that bullet. Yeah, doll, I know. She fell silent, and so did the rest of the car. I knew what would have happened. I had replayed the events of that night over and over in my head since it happened. If Sota hadn't taken that bullet, with our height difference, it would have blown my brains out. 69, Joey. Even though I was technically supposed to be with Yuka 24/7, as his physician in training, I was eternally grateful that the leader of the Takata clan allowed Alex and I to have our own room. Given it was right next to Yuka and his doctor and security, but it gave us privacy, especially with Alex's mood. He'd been so hot and cold since New York. One minute, wanting to jump my bones, the next, not even speaking to me, because he was so angry with what had happened on the plane with Reiji. Right now, he was discussing the itinerary with Sota and Aoto, while I sat, watching. Aoto, I don't want you leaving Joey's side, the whole time. When we are at meetings, you stick to her like glue, because I won't be able to. Other clans are not going to understand why Yuka's new doctor is a white woman. That thought brought me back to the incident with Reiji. He'd been so nice to me, always making sure I was okay or had a drink when I was at the Dragon, so the change in him had been unsettling. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, you two can piss off now, Alex said, stepping away from them, and he turned his attention back to me, a wicked smirk coming to his lips. And I knew I was just about to pay for the bratty attitude I showed him earlier. Soda and Audo left the room, and Alex stood in the middle of the living room of our hotel room and watched me, his arms folded over his chest. I blinked and furrowed my eyebrows at him. What? Alex crooked a finger at me. Come here. Why? Alex's eyebrow rose and his tongue sucked over his teeth. Jolene. Alexander. He tapped his foot and I poked my tongue out at him. His eyes closed and I heard him mumble something about the Lord and strength. Alex's eyes opened and the look he gave me told me he wasn't playing around this time. Jolene, get your ass over here, now. Rolling my eyes, I climbed off the sofa and walked over to him, putting my hands up. I'm here. Now what? Alex grabbed the back of my neck and slammed his mouth against mine. There was no gentleness to his kiss, and his other hand gripped my hip, bringing me closer to him. His lips broke away from mine, and my chest heaved as he kissed along my jaw, heading toward my ear. I told you I was going to punish you for being so bratty. My hands moved to his shirt, opening the buttons, and my hands roamed his chest and abs as he nipped at my ear, his breathing coming in gasps. This isn't punishment, Alex, I moaned, and his hand moved from the back of my neck to the front, and he gripped my throat. Shh! Alex's hand moved from my throat to my shoulder, and I heard the zip of his pants undo. On your knees, doll. The moment my knees touched the carpet, Alex's hand fisted through the back of my hair, and he pushed his cock into my mouth. He was hard as a rock, and I gripped the back of his thighs as he thrust, fucking my mouth. Drool slid down my chin, dripping onto my blouse, and I looked up. Alex, in his tattooed glory, staring down at me, absolute ecstasy on his features as he watched me sucking him. That's it, doll. Fuck. My panties flooded, and if this was Alex's idea of punishment, I would happily take every second of it. I had never had a guy so obsessed with me, and I had never been so in love with one person in my life. The grip on the back of my hair tightened, and I closed my eyes. No, doll. Open them. Watch me come in your mouth. The moment my eyes opened and my gaze met Alex's as his legs shuddered and he came. Oh, Joey. Alex's head tipped back as his cum flooded my mouth and I swallowed it, my core throbbing with need, and I knew my panties would be absolutely soaked. Holy shit, that was such a fucking turn-on, it wasn't funny. Alex stepped back, his cock coming from my mouth, and he sank to his knees, gripping my face and kissed me. My body was on fire with need, and I moaned. He pulled away and chuckled. I was going to punish you by not letting you come tonight, but holy fuck, I can tell right now you're going to be so wet. Alex's hands reached for my skirt, and he lifted it to my hips, his hand delving into the front of my panties as he kissed me again. He pulled away. Fuck. His fingers slipped into my pussy, and I bucked my hips against the palm of his hand as he fingered me. This is nuts. What? I asked, wrapping my arms around his neck as he nipped at the flesh of mine. How hot we are for each other. You're always so willing, so wanting. My head tipped back as his long fingers scraped against the front wall of my vagina, right against my G-spot, and I shuddered against him. Come on, baby. Give me that scream. The pressure of his palm against my clit, the quick scraping of his fingers against my G-spot, his breathy moans and words in my ear. Oh. My head tipped back and I shuddered. Alex! We both collapsed onto the carpet, tangled in each other, and I rolled to the side, cuddling up against Alex. I think I have carpet burn on my knees. Alex lifted his head and looked down before bursting into laughter. It's not funny, Alexander. I'm sorry, doll. It kind of is. But may I suggest you wear a pair of pants tomorrow? You don't want people thinking you got your job by... I slapped Alex's chest and he cackled more, and I soon joined him. We lay on the floor of the hotel room, me with my skirt up around my hips, him with his pants undone and softening cock out on display, and we laughed. Come on, we better not still be here when Soda comes to wake us up in the morning. He may ask some very embarrassing questions. Alex helped me to my feet, and I pulled my skirt down over my butt as he did up his pants, and he pulled me into his arms, kissing me again. I love you. You know that, right? I blinked and looked up at him. Yes. But don't say it like that. It makes me think something bad is going to happen. Alex frowned and kissed me again before leading me into the bedroom. It's a clan meeting, Joey. Something bad always happens. 70. Alex. Fuck, I hated clans meetings, especially in such a dense area. While Henderson was no Las Vegas, it was close enough to still have the high level of traffic seen by its neighbor. Alexander, relax. I turned my head looking to Yuka as we drove from the hotel room to the private mansion where the first of many meetings would take place. I'm trying, Yuka. You're just more on edge because Jolene is here. Too damn right I was. I didn't want to be in the car with my boss. I wanted to be in the car with my girlfriend. Actually, fuck it. I wanted to be back home, safe and secure. There was something niggling in the back of my mind that this trip was going to go balls up, and there was nothing I would be able to do about it. I'd have to let it run its course and hope for the best. Joey was sitting in the car behind us, with Yasu and Aoto, and while I knew she was more than safe in Aoto's capable hands, my brain kept telling me she would be safer with me. Sota wasn't driving today. He was solely the bodyguard for me, and I was Yuka's bodyguard, so we were relying on a new driver, which wasn't helping with my stress either. He pulled the car up to the gates of the mansion and waited as the gatekeeper came out of his little booth. Yuka Takada and entourage, 2 cars, 6 guests plus 2 drivers. The guard quickly looked into the back of the car, while another couple did the rounds of the vehicles, with long mirrors checking under the cars. You will be searched for weapons at the door. Please leave all items not pertaining to the meeting in your vehicle when you leave it. Well, at least we knew no one was going to have a gun on them in the meeting. Someone might be able to conceal a small knife, but if it was like every other clan meeting I'd ever been to with Yuka, the metal detector should pick it up on the way in. Driving through the gates, the car stopped behind a line of others and we waited until it was our turn to exit our vehicle, which gave me time to check in with everyone. I lifted my arm, speaking into the small mic at my wrist. Aoto, how is everything back there? It's fine, sir. We're ready. I couldn't help it. And Joey, how is she? There was a bit of a pause, and I heard Joey's voice come to the earpiece. I'm fine, Alex. I turned my head, looking back to the car behind us, and chuckled. I could see Joey, with Aoto's arm up in front of her face. And turn around, you're supposed to be protecting Yuka. I chuckled again, and turned around, as the driver took us closer to the entrance, and finally we were able to climb out of the car. Yuka, wait. Climbing out, I walked around to the other side of the car and opened the door, letting Yuka out, standing in the way, so that if anyone tried anything, they would have to go through me first. Sota and I flanked Yuka, and my head turned to the other car as ours drove off and we waited for Yasu and Joey, along with Aoto, to climb out. Normally, Yasu was the one to be let out of the car, closest to the building, signifying his importance to Yuka, but when he climbed out of the other side and came around the car, helping Joey out, my eyebrow rose. Even Yuka's own doctor recognized her importance to the clan. Hopefully the others inside the building will be as accommodating. Joey, Yasu, and Aoto came over to us, and Joey stopped beside me. Stop staring. You're making me nervous. I leaned in a little, whispering to her as someone came up to us, passing a wand over our bodies to check for weapons. I can't help it if you're so beautiful. I might have to swap and be your security, keep everyone away from you. No thanks. I'd rather have Aoto, she quipped, turning to look at me. At least he wouldn't do stupid shit to keep me safe. Yasu put his hand out for Joey to walk ahead of him, with Yuka and I frowned as she stepped away. She was right. If something happened to her, I would do the dumbest shit to make sure she was safe. Jolene Brewster was the most important person in my life right now. Not Yuka, not even myself, but the woman I had been spending my life with for the last 6 months. She was who I cared about above all others, and if anyone tried to take her away from me, there would be hell to pay. Stopping just inside the doors, we went through the security checks, guns, weapons of any kind. Joey handed over her bag and stepped through the metal scanner. It beeped, and the whole damned room turned and looked at her. I blinked as she stepped back through, her face red with embarrassment. I'm sorry. Ma'am, "Do you have any weapons concealed on your person?" The Yakuza security asked her, and she looked back at me before shaking her head. "No, I am a doctor in training. I fix wounds, not cause them." The man looked her up and down. "We're gonna have to do a pat-down." Like fuck they were. I stepped forward to stop them, but Yuka put his arm up, stopping me, and he stepped forward instead. "Gentlemen, I can guarantee Miss Brewster will have no weapons on her. You will find that the items setting off the scanners may be something in her lingerie." Almost every pair of eyes went to Joey's ample breasts, and I wanted to run around the room and poke each of those eyes out. Joey flushed red. "Yeah, sorry. It takes some heavy-duty underwire to keep these puppies up." My hand came to my face as Auto and Soda snorted, and Yuka chuckled. "Okay, Jolene, let's move on." "Yes, sir." She stepped through the metal detector again, and it beeped again, and she turned back, looking at the guard. "Do I have to flash the bra? Because I don't mind." "I do. Keep moving, Joey." I grumbled, and the guard turned and looked at me. I raised an eyebrow, and he turned his attention to Yuka, who passed through the scanner with ease. By the time I went through, as the last of our group, whispers about Joey were circulating the room. Great. Just what I didn't need. She was supposed to keep a low profile. Threatening to flash the clans her tits was not a low profile. This meeting was going to be very interesting indeed, and that was not to mention the after-meeting drinks. I had a feeling I would have to keep a very close proximity to my woman. 71. Joey. I had never stuck so close to someone as I did to Aoto and Yasu in my life. There were Yakuza. Everywhere. And, oh my god, Yuka was busy as fuck. He had 3 meetings within half an hour of arriving, and for each one, both Yasu and I were present, because as his physicians it was customary for us to be in the same room as him, just in case. Only one of Yuka's security was allowed, though, and even though he was head of it, Alex was only present during one of the meetings, allowing both Soda and then Aoto to be in the other 2. Mainly because Aoto complained he wasn't allowed to do his job if he was sitting outside. Right now, though, there was a break in between the meetings, and we were gathered in a large hall. I looked around, noticing I wasn't the only white person there. There were a few women who were not dressed and eloquently as I, draped off the arms of a few Yakuza soldiers. There were also a couple of men who were at the bar, and they looked like the typical lawyer types.